The 26th Human Rights Watch Film Festival is taking place worldwide this week. Filmmakers this year are focusing on issues including freedom of choice, cultural expression and family trauma. One of the highlighted films is documentary Eternal Spring, with illustrations by internationally recognized Chinese artist Da Xiong. The film is about Da Xiong himself, who had to flee China to escape persecution. I talked with the film's director and producer Jason Loftus to find out more. So tell us more about the film and the story and the characters involved. It's a true story, right?
Yes, it's a documentary, but we use animation to sort of bring the story to life.
He started working with illustrator Da Xiong on a video game project and got to know his story.
And so what we learned from Da Xiong was a remarkable story about why he had to leave China. And it's related to the persecution that had been taking place with Falun Gongs, but specifically this dramatic effort where the Falun Gong adherents in that city, a group of them got together and hatched a plan to hack into the state-run television to counter the state propaganda against their faith. And this event resulted in widespread arrests across the city and forced this artist, Da Xiong, to leave behind his comic book studio and flee his hometown and eventually his homeland as well.
在体会当时那种带回那种回忆的时候呢，我有一种很沉重的被压抑的感觉。
We decided to use Da Xiong's art, because he is an artist, to use his illustrations of the event to try to meet with other witnesses and piece this story together, and we used animation to bring his art to life. And fortunately, we were able to find the only surviving hijacker who's managed to leave China. There's one of them who is now living in Korea. We connected with him, we went over, we shot, and that really helped us to bring the story to life.
It's quite a dramatic story. The whole story itself, the persecution of, how many was it? It was something like nearly 100 million practitioners of Falun Gong, this very sort of peaceful practice. And then this very bold effort to hack into the national TV network. That's really something else, isn't it?
I was surprised by this event, but I think when you look at it and you understand what people were going through at that time, the reality is they had no outlet. So all of the media was controlled by the state, and there was this perpetual sort of denouncement of Falun Gong. And there was no opportunity for anyone to counter that narrative and say, well, no, that's not what Falun Gong is about, or the state media is misrepresenting our beliefs or our practice, or this is misinformation. There was no opportunity for a second voice.
And I think in the West that we don't appreciate the intensity of propaganda of the media, the state media, the Communist Party of China, how much that really hits home.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We tried to convey that in this film, and that's through the witnesses. You know, we speak with these people and they talk about what it's like, and here we zero in, for story purposes, we zero in on a few people, but you know, it is when everyone around you is saying that you're doing something wrong or you're a bad person, or you know, the state has this narrative that you're dangerous and evil and all this kind of stuff, and you just have no recourse to speak. It's really hard to imagine.
As well as Eternal Spring, Jason has been working on another documentary about the persecution of religious minorities in China. The Kung Fu video game he was working on with Da Xiong was going to be published by Chinese media giant Tencent.
And just in the midst of that game being published, as we were working on these documentaries, the Chinese government contacted my business partners at Tencent. They forced them to cut ties with my company. The Public Security Bureau in China contacted the family members of my wife and producing partner, Jason Loftus, who's from Changchun, and started pressuring her family members, warning them that they knew what we were up to overseas. So you definitely feel this. You feel the impact. But when I make this film and I meet these people and I see what they've endured and what they've gone through in order to speak up, I do think it's important that those of us who have the freedom to speak up do what we can to help shine a light on those issues.
The clips of the film I've seen look absolutely stunning, and the soundtrack too. What has the feedback been like?
Yeah, so we just had our world premiere at the Thessaloniki Documentary Festival in Greece, and I can say it was just immensely rewarding, because you put a lot of time, especially with a documentary of this nature, with the animation, etc. It was a very long production process. It's taken us years. And you do that in order to share something with an audience. And just to see the reactions, I mean, they had to cut the Q&A off because they ran out of time. People's hands were still in the air. People were so engaged, and people coming up to me saying really heartfelt things about how the film had connected with them. And yeah, it was extremely, extremely rewarding.
People in the UK and Ireland can watch Eternal Spring and the Q&A session on the Human Rights Watch website until Friday. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.